Hey guys, I wanted to go over the Warrioress and the babygirl archetypes within the developmental archetype structure. These guys are placed in the book widely. There's a good amount of this content that's exclusive to the premium group that I've made, but I wanted to give some people out here who kind of don't really know my thing or my style and help them kind of understand how I look at all this psychologically. I've been over I guess my whole life really developing these archetypes, but then there was this big point where I just finally, it just clicked in my brain and I just figured it out and it was like, whoa. It was like a download, like something from the other side just gave it to me, kind of a thing, and it just quick realization. So I want to talk about two primary core archetypes, and they are the females. So the baby girl and the warrioress. Okay, so warrioress women are usually standing up straight. They walk really well. They're pretty confident. When they get on the job for the first day, they're already ready to talk to people oftentimes. They're just right up in front of people's faces. Baby girls could definitely talk with people, especially too if they've been stuck in fight or flight. It's completely different when when their nervous system's dysregulated. And that's a different argument altogether. Also, too, neurodivergence messes with these archetypes a lot, so they can be a little bit skewed in kind of understanding like what archetype is which, because like a warrioress who has ADD could definitely present as a baby girl because she's going to naturally be pretty sporadic and like chaotic and having a lack of control in a lot of areas. Though it's more typical for baby girls naturally to just be like more out of control because they don't have the masculine integration. So for the people who don't understand the archetypes, as a basic understanding, it's development on either the masculine or feminine side of the mind. So a lot of people don't have the full development, and they're seeking that, and so they end up seeking it within relationships, and this is like the birthplace of trauma bonds. So an example with baby girls, they like very dominant men. They can end up being with men who are forgers, the double masculine men, because there's so much of a dad presentation about them. They got all the masculinity they seek. And so this relationship can be a bit toxic though, because the forger can be seeking the feminine so strongly that he steamrolls the baby girl. He can also on one end expect her to be like his typically masculine mother, at which point he ends up being very hard on the baby girl and it just ends up hurting her. But anyway, so to go back to the main point is the baby girl and the warrioress, they're different in that the way that they walk, the way they talk, usually you can pick up on this. Baby girls are typically more friendly, but not all the time. They're definitely unfriendly baby girls because they just didn't have that kind of development in their lives. Their parents didn't really care to do that, but they also still didn't have a masculine father. So there's some baby girls who lack in that particular area, but like you can typically notice baby girls by like their potentially their lack of professionalism if they're out on a job. They tend to struggle with boundaries. They're very much oftentimes not good at that. And if they try to do boundaries, it looks really bad, or it's too restrictive, or it just has too much openness about it. But the warrioress, she's typically going to be better at placing boundaries to the point that everyone's happy. Warrioress women are often very good managers, though it can be bad when they get too personal in the workplace. Like if they end up going into like the more emotional area, and they can in some ways struggle when they blur the lines. That's a different thing altogether. But yeah, so the warrioress, you can typically notice her based on the way that she walks. Oftentimes she's very strong and confident in the way she walks, very much able to make eye contact with you and maintain it. She's oftentimes physically fit, but not all the time. What else? Yeah, baby girls typically, depending on how they're raised and their current circumstances, they can end up letting themselves go because they don't have the masculine integration, which means they lack discipline. So they'll oftentimes mess that up, and they end up, overweight or even underweight, or they just altogether just mess up in some area in their life. They often need some kind of separate masculine coach. And that's why I often tend to work with a lot of baby girls, and baby girls tend to hire me the most because they need the masculine counterpart to help them. There are other reasons why you need help too. The baby girl in a relationship with a man, she often thinks the man can do everything, but that's the problem, is she puts all of it on that one man and he ends up feeling it and it ruins the relationship. So like I've had a lot of clients before come to me just because of that. So they help me, or I help them by adding to the experience by being a separate platonic male figure in their life to take up the other end that they're looking for masculinity. So anyway, I'm kind of going off a little while here. I just wanted to kind of go over like a basic overview of these two, so you can kind of look at them in real life and start noticing the patterns. But the bigger indicators is to be like, oh, a baby girl is a woman who regardless of the mother's presence, it's oftentimes the father. Like if the father isn't present or the father is not masculine, you can have a baby girl. And so if the mother, usually the mother is present, so there tends to be a lot of baby girls out there. Just like manifestor men. Manifestor men are the men who have more of the feminine influence because they lack the masculine. But yeah, they're definitely like, at this stage of the world right now and the way it is societally, like there's gonna be a lot more baby girls and manifestors in my opinion, just by the nature of lack of masculinity due to health and other such situations, due to society, all kinds of reasons. In the past though, there would have been a lot of forgers and warrioress. Like pretty much the majority of the Norse people, the Vikings, would have been warrioress and forgers based on the culture they had in terms of masculinity, and oftentimes not. I think a lot of them though, some of them, well, yeah, I think a good amount of them did let women just do their thing on the feminine spectrum. But I don't know, the lines were kind of blurred a little bit, and men were often too dominant to the point that women were just stomped on. But not in every situation. You know, history's got a lot of different depictions of this, and so it really depends. But yeah, so ways you can notice the warrioress: they stand up strong, straight, usually they make eye contact, they're good with conversation and logical conversation. Often they'll even be willing to give you solutions for your problems, like a man does. They can hold down a job really well. Baby girls still can too when they force themselves, for sure, but they oftentimes have a lot of internal conflict with this. Baby girls who are in fight or flight, just like looking for their daddy kind of energy, happens all the time. They're just going and going and going and going, and until they're like running on, even if they're running on fumes, they're just going to keep going and like just keep scaling up because they're in survival mode. And it's not until that man comes along that they can just kind of like relax and let go, you know? Yeah, a lot of women like that. And so the baby girls, it can be hard to notice them. You might think that they're warrioress when you see them, because they can develop a lot of different traits that are all over the place. But it's often a good indicator when you notice that they're blurring the lines all over the place when it comes to boundaries. They're just way more oftentimes, it's pretty often they're the ones who are the most gossipy at work. They're the ones who are most likely to be really bad in a lot of ways. A lot of them, I think, are subconsciously doing the bad thing just so they can get caught. It's kind of like a lot of criminals in the world are fatherless, and they just have this deep need for the father to come and get them, kind of a thing. But yeah, so that's a good like general spectrum. Other reasons might be like baby girl, like often dead giveaways with baby girls is that they're really receptive, and like if you tell them something and you didn't even have to like vet yourself to them, they can just be like instantly like absorbing what you're saying. They're like oftentimes very, very receptive. Or you might say like, I created this. Like for me, like I'm often saying like, I created this developmental archetype structure, I wrote this book, et cetera, and they're like super into it. But then when I'm talking about Warrioress, she's like, she's like giving me the squint, you know? She's like looking at me like, okay. And then I have to like over explain in different areas to assure them or kind of give them a sales pitch to like help them understand that like I'm a legitimate person who does scientific research, and I am very good at what I do. I had to like go through like an interview process with a Warrioress, but with like the baby girl, you can sell them really, really fast, oftentimes. So anyway, because the word, it's not to say that the baby girl doesn't vet. It's just the baby girl often vets through her subconscious and like in an intuitive way. She's using the intuitive and undercurrents to trust people. It's usually what the baby girl does, but she often fails with relationships because she doesn't often listen to that intuition. She'll end up defying it a lot of the time, just for whatever reason, often because of the lack of the father. So just gets in a relationship because she needs it. So, but the Warrioress can sometimes lack an intuition, so she has to rely on her own competency to be able to ascertain or find out if the people in her life are good. Definitely though, there are a lot of Warrioress women who have great intuition. It's not to say that they don't, it's just the baby girls by majority tend to have better intuition, or they use it more often. Anyway, I'm going off now as usual. I hope you guys benefited. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, definitely do so. I'm going to be making a lot more content around the developmental archetypes because they're just the bread and butter to so many people's problems. Anyway, see ya.